Welcome to the Krystal Effect. I'm your host, Krystal Appleby, and I'm here to share honest, wild truths I've learned through being a practitioner for myself and others on this crazy journey of life, career, and relating. I'm not crazier, braver, bolder, or more experienced than others. Rather, I do believe I'm here to share with a deeper level of honesty than most. It's just who I am. Superficiality and mediocrity are pure boredom here, and I do believe the deepest truths and depths of our soul will set us and others free. With an allergy to anything withheld in connection and conversation, we're going to dive right into any limits or lies we tell ourselves, pierced through the mediocrity or fears of diving deep into the truth. I hope to give you an opportunity to reactivate your knowing and zeal for living, rather than to be triggered, squander life and joy, and shrink away out of my energy field. But as always, choice is yours. Let's dive in. Welcome to today's solo episode of The Krystal Effect. I'm excited to be back after taking a little step back to just be, surrender, flail, and all of the things required to grow within stillness. There's so many directions I could take today's episode. I'm going to let the energy flow through me while holding this energy that I've been moving through of restraint, of learning to respond only when necessary, of holding the energy and the potency that restraint has, not from fear, but from knowing the necessity that in order to become and bloom into who we are here to be, to bloom into, to be of the highest impact, to be of the highest service, that energy of restraint must be embraced, embodied, and mastered within us if we want to become, if we want to quit flailing through the place where we are and the place we want to be. If we want to set a line, a trajectory, an anchor at point B, and start to directly move from where we are point A to that set point. If we want to stop zigzagging from A to B, or maybe even backtracking back to A, living there for a while, taking a few steps forward, coming back before we finally get the courage to fully leave the shore and move past that halfway point where there is no more shuffling, zigzagging, and going back. So, restraint, stillness. If you've been in my world, you've probably been hearing me talk about these things. This has been the pressure that I've been allowing my life to be under in the past few months. And when I talk about it feeling like purgatory and not comfortable, now I say that from the lens of, holy shit, this is a lot. Not from, I'm anywhere but where I'm meant to be. I repeat that. Not from the lens of, I am anywhere I am not meant to be. I am exactly where I'm meant to be. Even though to the outside lens of even myself, the circumstances feel fucked. My astrologer reached out to me the other day to ask how this transition, this transit in my life is going. And I almost forgot what was going on in my chart because the living has been intense. It has been nonstop. It has been, as soon as I turn a corner, there's another layer, there's another piece of pressure, there's another certainty that has to be made from my being, that has to be claimed. And I had a little back and forth with him, just chatting. I said, it's pure fuckery. Like, I know this is all for such a bigger purpose, and I know this needs to happen for me to be able to form into and hold the energy that I'm here to step into, to become the woman that I'm here to become, and the leader that I'm here to lead as. There is an embodiment that has to happen, and embodiment can only happen from us going through the whole process and portal that we're asking to understand, that we're asking others to walk through and step out of the comforts to become their truth. When we're calling others up and out, whether it's in our business, in our family, in our relationships, whatever partnerships that is, you better be sure that you've walked that path or that you're willing to step into that portal and go directly through right now. And this is why I'm so cautious in these periods of my life of posting anything, of anything that's coming up in my being. I'm just really cautious and sit and hold that energy of restraint with, does this need to come forward into the world? And usually I'll wait until there's no other way except that it's oozing out of me and it must come out, because there's so much reconfiguration going on behind the scenes in these phases of our life. There's so much judgment for ourselves and others that has to come up. There's jealousy, there's triggers. All of it is necessary. All of it must be welcomed, and all of it must be fully fucking felt so that we can understand it. We can learn to love this part of the process because it ain't the last time you're going to be here. And we can learn how to have empathy and be with others in such a deep way when they're moving through this transition. It's not a trendy thing. Well, it is a trendy thing to call yourself a life coach or go take a certification from somebody and then think that you're in this position to start leading. I would call utter bullshit. From the moment that I became a life coach to now, only now, 5 years later, do I feel confident to embody and be the leader that is required to guide others through this portal that I'm here to guide them through. That was 5 years of learning, of thinking I knew the thing. And I would argue the same is true for whatever you're moving through. When I became an acupuncturist, to now feeling like I am the person in that treatment room that can guide that person from where they're coming in saying that they are to where they want to be, to what they want to claim in their health, to what they want to have access to. This has taken, now we're talking 7 to 10 years to truly feel that I have become that woman who is the right person for the job. So this is not to dishearten those who are newer practitioners, but it's to humble and say, we never stop being in the seat of the student. Just because you have a certification or a piece of paper or understand on the surface level what I am saying, what people are saying when they speak to you and they're saying the same words and language that you've heard, doesn't mean you're embodying and living it. This week I had this really potent moment in my niching group with some friends where we went through a guided meditation. It was really powerful to feel in my body the energy of what I'm here to do and how I'm here to lead and what's blocking me from that. And what came up for me was stop relating to people's smallness. For so many years, when I go into a room with someone, when I'm online with someone, when I'm having a conversation, I have the ability to see through their bullshit and see to their core. But what I didn't fully realize that I was doing that was of a disservice was to relate to that and show them where in my life I've lived that same part, where in my life I am that same piece of them. And that's beautiful. And that's so true. I've been where you've been. I have walked each part of the cycle and I have understood it and had to meet it with compassion and grace. And sometimes I've met it with fucking throwing shit across the room because I just can't handle it any longer. But there is a difference between me and you. There is a difference between the person in their career still going to the job that they hold resentment for and me. There is a difference between the person sitting in the relationship that they know is dying out, but they're not quite ready to take that leap yet, and me. There is a difference between the one who knows that they're really good at copyright and speaking and that they could say things in a more eloquent way than me or write things in a more concise and potent and grammatically correct, clear way than I and me. And this is where I'm ready in my chapter of my life to say, can you sit in the student seat and receive? without responding or reacting? Can you just sit and be and soak it all in and trust that there's things happening beyond the words that you're consciously hearing from me or another leader, another mentor, whoever, that you actually don't understand? Instead of thinking, I understand this, I learned this from this person, but you don't understand what I'm going to say here might be triggering, and I don't mean it in this way, but it needs to be said. I'm a projector. And that can go for generator, mani-gen, reflector. I've never heard a reflector act like this, though, to be honest. But I have very correct reflectors in my life. But I'm going to go into Leo. Like, Leo can have that same energy. And all of these are just fucking identities that you need to put down. There is truth. There is so much power in human design. There's so much power in knowing your gene keys. And there's so much disempowerment when we step into identifying with that and saying, but you don't understand. I have insight on something that person doesn't know. Do you know that? Do you know that on a deeper level that me as a mani-gen, I don't see what you see as a projector? Because I have a lot of projectors in my life, and I can feel them wanting to invite me long before they actually speak it out loud. And I'm already trying to shut it down subconsciously because it feels very gross to a generator aura to have somebody piercing through them while they're trying to say, like, no, this is my aura here. Like, I hear you and I don't actually want to have to, like, that feels really icky to me. I don't want to. And then it's my job to have that confrontation when that boundary's been crossed. But here's what I would say as a general rule, and this is a total side tangent, but I just see a lot of disempowerment coming through with the identification of your human design. And specifically what I've seen in my world a lot lately is the projector energy. So as a projector, I have worked with projectors. I've had a beautiful, beautiful mentor who was a projector, and I've never actually met a projector as in alignment with their life and their mission and everything is them. And they never made me feel like they saw something I didn't, like they were superior to me. And they never injected into my field and invited me into something because they felt that I needed to see things from their lens. They always let me find my way on my own. And if it felt right, I did invite them in to see their perspective. But for the most part, I saw and I knew what they were feeling long before they spoke to it. And I wasn't ready. The generator aura works in a different way, right? So I can identify with my energy type just as much as the next person. But what I'm asking here, can you drop all of that? Yes, that is how you function, but that is still a very engineered system and way of thinking and being. That is not like being in our hearts in the moment and saying, okay, I ended up in this room for a reason. I'm listening to this person speak for a reason. Whether I signed up or whatever the dynamic is to be here, can I trust myself enough to know that that was on purpose? And sit in my role as the receiver, knowing that there is something happening on a more cellular level than the words speaking out of their mouth that I have access to only if I'm willing to stop and listen and receive without trying to see the insights beyond what they can see and being like, oh, are they a generator or are they this? Or can they see this? Or they And that goes for everybody. I'm not picking on projectors here. But I guess I kind of am in a sense because I do see them identify more because they are a smaller percent of the population and it naturally brings them to the space where they feel like whatever they feel. I'm not going to go into that. Drop the identity and receive. The astrology, the human design, the gene keys, whatever channels you have or don't have are perfectly on purpose. Do you not believe that you were put and created here on purpose? And I think one truth that we all have is to like drop into our hearts and start to live more and more from there. And if we're constantly being pulled into our design, and I say this from empathy because I worked very closely in and with my design for a year and a half with a mentor. But if we're constantly being pulled into how we function when we're making decisions, we can bypass the heart. We can start to say, no, but I respond from my sacral. No, but as time goes on, things get stronger. Yes, and I would like you to tell me what system in the world works 100% of the time. How you've developed a system in your body that 100% of the time you're not making mistakes and mistaking your, maybe past traumas that are sitting in your gut and calling them a sacral response because it kind of works with what your mind's telling you. So, all of that, a long-winded tangent to say, where can we drop these identities and see ourselves as a piece of the collective cloth and start interacting and collaborating in that way that we all need each other. We all need each other's designs and each person to be so activated and so certain and so open and available to purely living through how they are created instead of identifying with it or trying to contrast how they function versus someone else. That is the only way that we start to all work together to actually create collective change. And if that's what you say you're here to do, is to be a healer, a coach, a mentor, a this, a that, well, oh Lord, you better be connected to a deeper truth. And that really roots me back into this, it's the gift of the 50-second gene key, restraint. You need to learn to be able to hold that energy. And often there's so much energy moving through us when we're in this because so much is being activated and brought up, depending the part of the shift or cycle that we are currently in is where we're going to feel more of this pressure, right? And then restraint isn't going to be as simple in these moments. When your kids are bringing you to the utmost top of your capacity, when you've had a long day. And then for me, it's like I am moving through all the things with grace and ease. And then my dog's on steroids and 7:00 hits. And I know shit's going to hit the fan and she's not going to be herself. And she's going to be wild for 3 hours to the point where I want to lock myself in a room and have nothing to do with her. How do I hold restraint in those moments? And that happens in business all the time. I was talking to a client this week, coming back from holidays or whatever's going on in our life. Oh, life's been happening. I feel behind. I feel this. Perfect. That's life. You want to start a business. You want to be an entrepreneur. You want to lead other people and manage other people in your own business. You better learn how to move through these pieces of life, these pieces of the psyche that come up and want to mind fuck with you really well before you start trying to lead other people. Because guess what? Life doesn't stop when you open a business, even if you have a manager. When you want to start taking on contracts, when you want to start taking on clients, yes, compassion, and we bring the right people into our worlds that understand that life's going to happen and sometimes we're going to have to hit the pause button. But life doesn't actually stop happening. These things just they pile up, right? So then how do we hold restraint so that we're not spewing anything out at people, so that we're not going back to these identities that we've had our whole life and we can't receive and listen from the universe, from God, from the people around us, from our elders. In this chapter of my life, my lessons have been, how do I sit in the family dynamic that used to crush me and make me run and avoid to the umpteenth degree? How do I let that now be my healing grounds? If I know I'm in a place where I'm ready for partnership and I'm ready for, a new part of my life where I create my own family and call that energy in, how do I sit and receive and listen when that energy is not currently in my physical life? Well, what greater teachers than to be surrounded by family and my elders and allow them to reflect back these things, these tendencies, but that takes restraint in my system to not say, yeah, but you did, like, this is how I saw it in my childhood. This is when you call me running and avoidant. This is what I see. No, sit down, shut up, and be the listener for once. fully, fully, fully. And do you know how much after some of these conversations I want to go back and say, well, you said this and that kind of triggered me or that. And sometimes that's totally necessary. But sometimes we're just there to be the student. And sometimes if we actually let ourselves sit there and be the student, even when we feel the person, the teacher, the leader, the parent, the partner in front of us is wrong, but if we actually let ourselves receive, sometimes a week, a month down the road, we receive further insights because we let ourselves have that spaciousness, and that through that restraint, we're actually allowing something to happen on a more cellular level so that we don't always have to get in our own way. We don't always have to slow ourselves down on that trajectory from A to B, where we want to throw that anchor. If you want to get to that set point on the GPS quickly, and you're watching people and wondering why they talk about quantum leaping and these quantum shifts and quantum healing, you can't go from year 1 or year 2 in your spiritual journey. I'm sorry, I'm going to say this, and it's a blanket statement, and there's always exceptions, but you cannot go from thinking, I got this certificate, I got this training, for me as like the new acupuncturist, the new coach, the new hypnotherapist. You don't get to go from there and quantum leap to the millions of dollars, to the understanding and embodying it all, and all of these things. And there's people who do it quickly, but what I would argue is that they laid a foundation long before, maybe through another business. Like I look at my one mentor that is a projector that I have seen do things really quickly, but there's years behind the scenes where she was going and laying foundations in other ways, by having a brick and mortar, by closing that down after, like taking these quick shifts and leaps in her own life to get to a foundation where she could actually receive those quantum leaps, which is really just us collapsing the amount of time between clarity, decision, action, and receiving. How do we keep collapsing that? We keep collapsing the time in our life between knowing something and taking action. That's not easy, because that whole process, every time, death, rebirth, like going through becoming the fool, stepping into all those phases in the major arcana and tarot, that is happening every time that we have awareness, take action. We are willingly going into that cycle, which is cool. And you watch people making these big shifts, and you might even watch me and say, how did you do this? Or how did you do this? And I did build a brick and mortar very quickly. And I did do these things where to the outward world, it would look really quick. But here's the thing. I have been laying foundations for so many years, through my schooling, through my waitressing years ago. All of that has to happen and come together and start to build momentum in my system and give me life experience of fuckery where I've learned, and my nervous system has learned to have bandwidth for it. So that when we have these shifts and you watch people just like explode, there's a lot that went into getting to that phase. And there's nothing wrong with them just sharing that phase. There's nothing wrong. They don't owe everybody their story and their journey of hardship and da-da-da-da, and what it took to get them there. That's their story. Those are the people that I love sitting and listening and receiving from. Those are the people that will get from set point A to B quickly, and they will help you pull that in, because there's the people that get from A to B really quickly by doing, push, pressure. I've had those people in my business. I've worked with those people, had them in my life. It's exhausting watching. You can hire all the coaches. You can have 5 coaches on your team to get you from A to B, and all the systems and all the strategy. Is your nervous system on board? What are you doing it for? How is it you being of service in this world and serving the greater collective? Are you really rooted into that? And are you embodying all the pieces, not just your piece of mastery? It's easy for us to be really good at the one thing we're so fucking passionate about. But if you zoom out and put someone in a scenario and their system starts to wobble as soon as they're in something that's new and uncertain, the nervous system is not ready to receive. You're not going to quantum leap. The 5 coaches actually aren't going to get you there. And if they get you there, it's not going to satisfy you. or you're not going to hold it, or you're not going to know what the fuck it's for. So why are you going from A to B? What's your bigger purpose? Why can your heart not stop telling you about it and giving you messages? And, why is that contrast in your current career or life or relationship, family dynamic so loud? Because what is it that you're desiring and feeling pulled to on the other side of that? Because that process isn't easy. So you're going to have to be able to anchor in over and over and over and over and over again. So mentorship is not this fun, fancy thing where it's like, oh, I'm going to leave my job to do that because that's remote. I can work from anywhere and I can make big money and da 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 da. But you won't. And you won't create the impact, and it won't satisfy you the way you think it will if you don't have a clear reason for why you're at A and why you want to get to B. And if you don't have support that's going to help you move from that portal from A to B and remind you that has bought into your vision, that understands the vision, and it has them just as turned on as you. Otherwise, good luck. You can hire whoever you want, have however many people you want on your team, but they can only meet you in the depth that you're at. So if you're not in the gritty, deep depths of your somatics, of your nervous system, of, your deeper purpose, my loneliness and pain in my life, and that's not to be dramatic, but throughout my life, that feeling of longing, alone, has been my driving force my whole life. And now I do sit in a place where I have a beautiful community. I have created these beautiful foundations in multiple places. And I do get to pull on and receive support from those. And it's so fucking worth it. It's so fucking nurturing to my system and my human. But I didn't do it for no purpose. I didn't cross my fingers and say, I want to feel all of this wealth or this, I went through phases where I want more money. I want more this. I want more that. And at the core of all of that, before I ever made a move, before any of the things that looked impulsive or quick acting or anything, there was so much foundation laid in my human. There was so much contemplation and meditation and yes, the systems of weighing out risk versus these things. But really, at the end of the day, it was just anchoring into my heart and my truth and knowing that this had to come out of me. I had to do this. There was literally no other way. If you don't have that, you're doing the wrong thing. And I will try to wrap it up there by just sharing, in this 50-second gene key, in the gift of restraint, it talks about it may take 10 years just to reach the height of the sunflower for another tree, the yew tree, but it may live as long as 5,000 years. So it is with all human ideas and actions. Every human being alive contains this intention. It is the seed of your individual destiny. To get your intention clear, you must ask yourself the question, how can I be of the greatest service to humanity? Then you must live the answer. Because we humans cannot see the details of the journey ahead. We have to trust in the direction that our intentions take, even if it does not make sense to us at the time. This is the power of restraint, to allow your life to unfold without urgent demand. And if we want to identify with boxes, that is the struggle of a manifesting generator. If I ever knew it, there is no urgent demand. You will be pulled in and offered the gift of understanding and embodying and learning to harness the power of restraint through your journey, through your relationships, through your business, through your career, if you allow it. If not, I hope you like the zigzag journey. And with that, I hope I haven't offended too many projectors. I do love you guys. I love the vision that you see. I do. And don't underestimate the power of everyone's design. We all have the same potency in our design, and that's why we're here, created exactly how the fuck we're here. So let's put down our identities. Let's harness the ability to listen, to receive, and practice that restraint so that we can all shift on a deeper, more prophetic, cellular level and join hands in that interconnected web of energy and in the physical so that we can actually create the impact and the desire and the world that we want to see in our lifetime and far beyond. Thanks for tuning in today. And as always, choice is yours. Take care. Thanks for joining us today. That is it. Be courageous, be bold, let anyone down but yourself along the way as you confidently activate or trigger the correct players in your pinball game. And with an open and defined heart, I encourage you to go forward with curiosity and create the depth and satisfaction in the entirety of your life, the entirety of your career, the entirety of the relationships that your soul came here craving, seeking, destined to create. If you enjoyed today's episode, we'd love it if you left a review below. You can reach me at thekrystaleffect.com or on Instagram, the.krystal.effect. We'll leave that below.